right? Totally not fair. I could be Batman, right? If I had all the money Bruce Wayne has and all that stuff, you know, it's not fair. But of course, this sort of thing happens everywhere in life, and it's not really true, right? It's not, at least it's not 100% true. You can take things too far, and you can offend the player's sensibilities. But it's not true that the slightest gameplay advantage offends them. In fact, sometimes it works the other way. It gives them a point of pride, right? You know, like, you're using this store, and I still beat you, right? You know, that sort of thing. And again, there's degrees of it. Hot off the presses, just last week, I was at Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. I saw a really great talk, a guy named Ben Cousins at EA, talking about Battlefield Heroes. So if you have access to the GDC proceedings, I encourage watching this talk. I think it was called Paying to Win or something like that. You know, basically paying for gameplay advantage. Battlefield Heroes is a notable title for a few reasons. One reason is just that a major label is doing this, right? So EA, when they embarked on this project, was the #1 or #2 game publisher out there. And they set up a label to make free-to-play games. And they made a label that wasn't going to be, you know, just a free-to-play MMO or things like that that a few others had tried, on maybe, you know, smaller publishers had tried, or smaller companies had tried. They're actually innovating by taking it to different game genres, like they did with a session-based PvP battlefield shooter, right, with this game. The focus of Ben's talk was really about, you know, again, you know, how much can you sell gameplay advantage? And, you know, they launched the game only with cosmetic items in the store, and I think some minor boost to XP or to the gold you could earn in the game. You know, you would earn some currency in the game for playing, so you had boosters to those two things in the store. And that was it. Those were the only things they had for gameplay advantage, and those were really about your advancement, your kind of slow progression for your character. But they weren't making enough money. They were successful at getting millions of players to sign up for their game. There was interest, there were people staying, but they weren't making enough money. They were making on average 25 cents per user per month. That was their average revenue. They needed to make at least 50 cents per user per month for their business to make sense. And under the pressure of potentially failing with this game, of EA laying them off, of who knows what, right? Finally, the team said, all right, you know, screw it, we're going to put in some minor gameplay advantage in the form of weapons in the store that are a little bit better. Maybe they have a few more bullets in the clip, maybe they have a slightly higher critical chance. Again, Ben's estimate is maybe a 10% gameplay advantage at best during the session. You know, Kotaku articles, you know, go up in flames and declare the doom of Battlefield Heroes, and the forums have, you know, 700-page long threads, and just, you know, disaster and doom, right? That's the morning of day one, right? But, you know, by the nighttime of day one, revenues are up 3 times what they were yesterday, right? And you know what else? People didn't leave. That's the so what of Ben's talk, as everybody goes, well, I'm out of here. And you know what? Most of those people, they're not out of here. They stick around because they still like the game experience, and it didn't ruin things like they all thought it would. So they kind of start with an emotional reaction of, gosh, this is ruining everything. But then they try it, and they see what it really means, and it didn't ruin everything, right? So in this game, a Battlefield game, if you guys have probably played some of these games, you know, it's a lot about player twitch skill and FPS skill and strategy, and whether you're going to just run out into the battlefield like a moron and get shot, or whether you're going to be strategic and think about how you're going to attack your enemy, right? So there's a lot of room for player skill in there, or player attitudes about how they approach the game to make up the difference, much more so than the minor gameplay advantage they were selling in the store. And Ben had this great analogy at the end where he talked about, you know, he races bicycles. So he races bikes, long races, and he, you know, in all these major bike races, he would talk about, you know, you'd see this guy pass you, and he'd look at the bike, and because he knows kind of the sport, he'd be like, I know those are $10,000 rims on that bike. You know, and that saved the guy £1.50 of weight, you know, to have a $10,000 rims instead of, let's say, a respectable $200 rims on his bike or whatever, right? £1.50. That's it. And so he basically said, look, never do I go, I would have beaten that guy if not for that £1.50, right? Even though he spent tons of money more than you could afford to spend on the bike. And likewise, the other way, you sometimes pass that guy, right? And you go like, he wasn't going to beat me whether he had it or not. You know, how much did it really change his time? Right? So this happens everywhere, right? And so the idea that it can't happen at all in games is flawed. And we just have to, as game designers, make games that work well, that are fun, and that are appropriately monetizing some of this stuff and still leaving room for player accomplishment and skill and rewards.